Hi, everybody. Welcome to Click Moments, where the right information at the right time is a portal from where you are to where you want to be. And I'm your host, Beth Orr, and I'm out at Lake Centilla again. I've been at an artist retreat through the amazing gallery and artistic community of Art Play in Asheville. And it's the last day. And I'm feeling filled up with a combination of nature and the balance that comes from that peace and contentment that can come from being in nature, but then also having amazing artistic offerings and connections with people who are dialed in. So it's always filling to me. So this has inspired today's message, which is on the power of subtle and dramatic new movement. Now, hopefully you've leaned in and you're like, what is she talking about? Let's discuss this a little bit. And why new movement? So many times I've noticed that I want something in my life and I've put it out there with such fervor. And yet some things come pouring towards me. Other things are like seeds have been planted and they slowly come about. And then you have those things that you're like, did I plant any seeds? I think I scattered some seeds. Where's the fruit? And then I start asking myself, I back up and I say, what's been my action towards this item? Like I've got thoughts percolating, which are just energy, but it's invisible. It enters my brain. My brain starts to become active. I have these emotions inside me. And depending on the level of emotions, then it pushes me to make some changes. So I've got to do some new movement in order to see some different results. I mean, we know this. If you want something different, you have to do something different. So some things that I'm doing are producing amazing results. Other things, I can feel it. I know it's in motion. And then there's still other things that I'm like, is anything happening? Right? So, I've got notes here. I'm gonna sit you down like this so you can see my view too. It's beautiful out here today. I've got the whole lake practically to myself. I've been out here for hours doing meditation and really trying to get to the essence of what has happened this weekend. And this is where this conversation of this subtle and dramatic changes, I've thought back and I'm like, there's been times in my life where I've done something big and I've had dramatic results from that. So for example, when you want something so bad and you know you need to do something different, often you'll do something dramatic, whether that's leave a relationship because you need something to change now, or move from your house and sell your house and move across the country. You need a shift now. Leave your job to do something else. You can't stay in that environment, or you're looking for something else that this other environment says it has. But you're shifting to align with something that you're aware inside is something that you want, right? If we think about what we want, but we don't make any changes, it's not going to happen. It's going to be a dream. It's going to be something that we're like, ooh, I hope this happens someday. Well, you can't even win the lottery unless you buy a ticket. You still have to have some sort of action, whether it's small and it's subtle or it's dramatic. So you really want to win the lottery? Maybe you're buying 100 tickets every single time. But if there's just a faint underpinning of you want something, then you just act a little. But what's interesting is that sometimes we don't have enough awareness that we're always moving. Case in point, I'm out in the middle of this lake. I want you to look at this. I'm out in the middle of this lake. Now, I could decide that I want to go back. I want to get some breakfast. I want to get another cup of coffee. If that's my decision, I have to act towards it. I'm not going to coast. My thoughts alone are not going to get me to the house for breakfast and a coffee. What my current movement is doing is it's allowing me to share this information. I'm floating, so I'm probably going to end up on the shoreline. My movement, or lack thereof in certain capacities, will either get me towards what I'm focused on or away from it, but what I'm thinking alone will not get me there. I have to act. So when you're not getting something in your life that you're like, I really, 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 really want this, and it feels like you're acting towards it, it's a good opportunity to step back and say, how am I acting towards this? This is what I think I'm doing. And so if I say that I'm doing these actions and it's going to produce these results and it's not, then that gives us an opportunity to say, am I doing the right actions? Are my subtle movements in this direction pointing me in the right direction? Is this something that's divine timing and it's going to unfold on its own time? It's like the seedling. The seedling doesn't sit around thinking about, ooh, is it my time yet? 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 The seedling just is a seedling. It's resting. It's dormant. It's preparing itself. It's taking in nutrients. It's growing. But it doesn't ask to be further along than where it is right now. It's going to fruit. It's going to break the surface. It's going to bloom in whatever kind of seed it is when it's time. But that seed, if it is a seed that's supposed to produce one type of fruit, it's not going to produce a different one, right? You don't have raspberry bushes that produce strawberries. At least I don't think you do. Do you do that? Not that I'm aware of. Do you get, like, we do this all the time. It's like, if I'm not pointed in my direction and I'm like, ooh, I could do this. I'm cooking this up. This is something I could do. And I'm doing this dramatic or subtle movement towards this. But yet it's not my direction. It's something that I'm doing because I'm like, yeah, I could do this. But the reality is, when you're lined up to your direction, it feels like you're on the path. There's less anxiety about whether or not you're on the path or whether or not something is going to bloom. Because when you're on your path, there's a peace with it. Your actions, whether they're subtle or dramatic, have different types of results, but you sense it, right? But we're always moving all the time, which means that, here's the good news, we're always the one directly responsible for whether or not we're attaining something or not. Like if you say you want to be an actress in New York City, but you've never been to New York City, you've never taken an acting class, and you're just really, really sad because you're not doing it, who knows if you could be an actress in New York City? You're not doing anything. Like, we suffer with these images, and it's like, if we're not going to do it, let it go. And figure out the thing that you're willing to go for with such tenacity that you're like, nothing is going to stop me. When you find that thing that you're like, ooh, I'll do anything for that. And I mean anything that aligns with the heart of this. Like anything that you're willing to do something for and you're willing to hurt others, I would caution you on that anything. But if it's doing anything and it's something that you've got a gift to share, it's something that you just want to give so deeply, but it's also just supplying something in you, right? Or maybe it's something you want to do experience-wise with somebody that you know, like whatever it is, whether it's an experience, whether it's a job, whether it's your whole life and the way that it's structured, whatever you're feeling, a subtle movement, one shift could be as little as, I'm going to think about this. That's a subtle movement. A thought, a reverberation, a movement in the brain, pulling up images and contemplating something. A thought that I might do something is a subtle shift. It's planting a little seed that is like, ooh, what about this? As we explore this, maybe we ask another question a week down the line. Ooh, I'm even more interested in that thing that I'm asking. What about this? And you may ask another question because of the answers from the first question, a subtle little movement. And then you ask another question, another subtle little movement. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to go do this thing, a dramatic movement. And that's what scares us sometimes. We see people doing dramatic movements and we think, ooh, I'm not ready for that. That's okay. Do you know how many subtle movements that person who had the dramatic movement probably had that you never saw? It's like this tree. You see this tree, you see this dramatic movement, but you don't see all the years that went into that tree becoming, the mycelium from the other trees that fed it, the seed that was planted. You don't know any of that, right? When we are doing something and we see other people doing the thing, more than likely there were a lot of little subtle movements beforehand, before they did the thing, the dramatic movement, the I'm going to do this. I remember, I'm going to give you an example. I remember the day that I left my job 2.5 years ago. I had been there for 8 years. And I had known it was time. And I had all of these thoughts in the previous year that said, it was time. It was time to do something new. I started getting used to the thought, subtle little movement. Asking a question, can I do this? Is this okay? Is this really what I want? Is there a way that I can stay? Why do I feel like I need to go? What is this doing for me and for the place that I'm leaving? Is this in my best interest? The questions go on and on. In totality, trying to fire hose them, it's actually really aggressive towards ourselves. How could we possibly know all those answers? I used to do that all the time, by the way. It's a lot of suffering that goes into fire hosing ourselves with those questions. But a subtle little movement is asking yourself one question, waiting for it, listening, pausing, allowing that question to permeate within you, listening for the subtle cues in our body that say, as I've talked about before, our emphatic yes, our emphatic no, and I don't know. I always listen for the emphatic yes. Absolutely, I'm supposed to do this, and I just do it. I have a dramatic movement because I've probably had all these little questions that I've asked myself. And it's been clear to me in some moment, yes, I've had enough inputs of something to say I can move forward in confidence. Sometimes it's an emphatic no because I'm like, no, absolutely not. I don't want to do this. I know for sure this is my boundary. I know for sure this is my truth, and whatever's happening in front of me is not respecting that. And then there's the I don't know, which is I don't have enough information to make any decision one way or another. So I get more information in order, and I give it the time that it needs. I have these subtle little inputs. I've been talking about thoughts as one way that you have a subtle movement, right? Thoughts is one way. Sometimes you might want to, when you start to get to a point of trying something new, I think about when I want to take a new movement, it's still something new. And I have a really ingrained neuro pathway or a way in which I currently do something that says this is me, this is my truth. So when I want to do a new movement, if risk and new and uncertainty produce fear or anxiety or some of these things, then what I do is I'm trying to cultivate my neuro pathway of new, doing something new. So a segue from a thought of a subtle movement forward or to a new direction. Right past that thought is to try something new that's not related to whatever this thing is that you're like, I don't know, or this is big, or I'm just not certain, right? So maybe you try something new that's not related because you're cultivating generally in your brain, new neural pathway. Oh, I do that. I do new things. Look, it was okay. I mean, maybe it could be as simple as you have this routine. You get up every morning, you cook an egg, a piece of toast with butter, you smear it a certain way, you put some strawberry jam, not grape, strawberry, and you do this every day. And maybe today, you don't have eggs, you have oatmeal. And instead of bread, you have a bagel. It's a new neural pathway. It's saying into the universe, ooh, I'm doing new things. I don't always do things this way. That's a transferable connection to something else that you may be doing or wanting to do. So then past, do you hear the cacophony? They're either ravens, blackbirds. Whew, they got a lot to say. So past thought, you do this new activity that's not related to what you're thinking about doing. And then you have try something new that is related. Let's say that you're thinking about starting a business, but it's a lot. It's a lot to even consider. And you decide, I'm going to do one thing new. Well, what would be on my list? What would I need to do to start a new business? Well, I need to know what the business was. I'd need to possibly learn how to do a website. I'd need to maybe talk to somebody to finance it at the bank. Like you could create this whole list. So what's the one thing that you could do new towards that activity? How does somebody start a business? Maybe you just Google that. You just start there and let the anxiety or the excitement or whatever emotion is going to come up. You feel it. You allow yourself to feel it. You say, oh, sometimes when I'm doing something new, I feel these emotions. What are these emotions? Could I anticipate them? Will they pass? Do they tell me that I shouldn't move forward, or they just tell me that, of course, you feel this way? Something new. When you try something new, eventually, will it always feel like that? No. Probably the first day of every new job you've had, there's a little bit of nervousness. There's a little bit of like, ooh, am I going to meet my people there? Or am I going to get along? Am I going to belong? Am I going to like the work? Is it going to be satisfying? Am I going to want to wake up every day and do this? But you don't feel that the second day. You don't feel that the third day. And you don't feel that the fourth day. In a week, in 2 weeks, in a month in, it's like a completely different experience. So when you do something new, eventually it's not new. It's actually just part of you. And in the form of a job, you've been committed to it. You're spending 8 to 10 hours a day or however many hours a day, even if it's 2 hours a day. You're spending time every single day on that activity. And by spending time on that activity, it becomes less new. And so if you're going to try something new, but you're only going to try it once every 6 months, it's going to take a while to not feel like it's new. But if you're willing to commit to it, you're willing to do it more often, more quickly, it won't feel new anymore. Whether it's a subtle or dramatic movement, moves forward regardless of which one it is. Sometimes we think it has to be something dramatic. To me, when I look at my metric for dramatic movement, I only do something dramatic if I feel like it is negative to my well-being, dangerous to me to continue. Those are the times that I do something pretty dramatic. It's unhealthy in some way. It's going to cause me harm. I started to tell the story of when I was leaving my position, and I talked about the types of questions, the subtle questions that I'd been asking myself when I was going through that. So when I left that morning, the morning that I resigned, I had about 20 to 25 things that came up before 9 a.m. that said, today's the day. Now, it could have appeared to people, because I didn't know the morning that I left, it could have appeared to people, that's a very dramatic decision. You saw 20, 25 things before 9 a.m. that told you that you were going to leave and you didn't know you were going to leave. That's pretty dramatic. But yet, is it dramatic in context to the larger questioning of all the questions that I asked myself? There were these subtle movements, these subtle questions that I was asking myself, the movements in my brain of the questions that was preparing me for the dramatic physical movement. But it was happening up here, and it was happening out here as I was processing it. So it can look like those subtle and dramatic movements can sometimes be seen, and sometimes they're not. But movement is movement, and it's still happening. And what your results are going to be proportionate to if you're pointed in the right direction, if you're asking yourself some helpful questions, if you're getting past these blocks that are stopping you. For example, thinking that you're going to change without any kind of discomfort is unrealistic. If you want something different, you have to do something different, which means you're going to have to get through a little bit of discomfort and sometimes some pain, which both we're able to do. The question is, how much do you want the product of this new movement? Every time you do a new movement, it has a different result. I've been coming out here in the morning since I got here. Every morning that I've woke up here, I've gotten into a kayak and come out into this lake to experience this every single morning. It was a subtle thought to do it, subtle movement, and then I started taking dramatic movements. I started waking up in the morning, setting my alarm, making sure that I had the coffee ready, making sure that my clothes were laid out so that I could just get out there, getting into the kayak, getting out here, taking motion to get here. If we want something, we have to have movement to get it. It's not impossible. It starts small, with a desire, with a thought, with an inspiration, with an epiphany, with a dream, with a vision, with a knowing, with a vague feeling. There's a number of ways that our bodies tell us it's time for new movement. It's not time to sleep in this morning. I can sleep in some other time. But if I sleep in when I'm here, I miss this. Look behind me. I want you to see this. I want you to see this. This is what my new movement, my willingness to do something different. This is what my new movement got me. Look at that mountain. You can't even see the top of it. It's just fog. There's so much fog around. New movement, I'm just sharing it with you. There's fruit to it. But if you keep doing what you've done, you're going to keep getting what you've gotten. I think about this. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were somewhere, they were starting to have some awareness. They were starting to kind of question that they were getting a little like antsy about how they were spending their evenings, doing the same thing every single night. But what was interesting is they would do their thing, and then other people would come around them and they would do their thing. And everybody was in line with what we do here. It was movement, but it wasn't new movement. So their movements were producing the results that they got every single night, and it was safe. In fact, it was comfortable. When we do something new, it can take us away from what we think is safe, when really, is that true? It could still be safe. Probably is going to still be safe. May not be comfortable in the beginning, but every single thing that you do is not comfortable in the beginning. Now, it can be a lot of other things. I'm thinking about, most often it's the anticipation of something that's uncomfortable because you're uncertain. But we've talked before on here about anxiety, and excitement is on, it feels the same in the body. The frequency feels the same in the body, but our meaning and our meaning attribution, or what we say that it is different. So, when you are doing something new, you might have that nervousness. But what if it's actually excitement and you're saying you're nervous because you're doing something new? But what if you just started saying one new subtle movement? What if when you felt nervous sometimes, as long as it wasn't an obviously unsafe situation, right? What if when you were doing something new, when you were getting that oatmeal meal and a bagel instead of your eggs and toast, what if you said, I'm excited about this? You gave it new meaning. I'm excited about this. Where is this going to go? What's going to happen? How is this going to feel? What if you end up really liking oatmeal and bagels? And that one subtle movement changes your willingness to do something else new, and it has a ripple effect. Every movement you do has a ripple effect. Sometimes we don't recognize the ripple effect. But it's there. Every single thing that we do has a ripple effect. You think about the example I gave you. Person sits here every night. Other people come along. Ripple effect. This person's sitting here. This person over here goes, this person's sitting here. We're sitting. We're sitting. This person sees it. We're sitting. We're sitting. Ripple effect, right? I want to start, you say, I want to start riding my bicycle. I'm just throwing out anything, right? You think about it. You go look at bikes. You choose a bike. You buy a bike. You get your helmet and gear. You start riding. You find the paths. You start riding. Suddenly, your friends that now know you that also ride bikes are like, hey, you want to ride bikes together? Ripple effect. You bought a bike. Somebody else who has a bike now wants to do it. Now you're riding bikes. You made one new movement. Subtle shift at first with a thought. Curiosity. I wonder if I want to do this. And then you do it. We are talking about this because sometimes we feel powerless. We feel under empowered. We give away our power to other people. We say, oh, this person wouldn't possibly want me to do that. Or I couldn't possibly do that because I'm doing these other things. Sometimes other people are a really convenient reason for us to not do something that's right for us to do. So once we're aware that we're not doing a new movement for any number of reasons that may or may not be accurate, but we're giving it meaning, we can say, do I want to do something new? And if I want the results of what would happen from doing this new thing more than I want what's happening right now, I have to find a way to do a new movement, or else it will not happen with thought alone. And what I would encourage you to consider also is, if you're not willing to do the new movement and you're not willing to have to go for that outcome, maybe it's not yours because you're choosing something that you have to drum up the excitement to do. How about you just find the thing that you are excited to do? Find that. Do that. And if you're not willing to do this other thing, we have thousands of things that we can choose to do. If you're not willing to do the new movements to get the thing, and you're willing to keep doing what you have been doing, or do something else new, if you're not willing to do something, let yourself go from it. Stop suffering. If you're not going to take acting classes, and you're not going to go to New York, and you're not going to put forth the effort, let it go and put all your energy into what you are willing to do. And if you are willing, and you want more than anything to be an actress in New York City, then you're going to take acting classes. You're going to move there. You're going to do the thing. No matter how hard it is, you're going to do it because you wouldn't be doing anything else. Maybe you're not picking something up because it's not yours. It's something you're cooking up. Maybe there's something about it that you can learn, and you can say, what is it about this that I really like? And what is it that I don't like? Maybe it's an I don't know, and you need more information. But you're going to need some subtle or dramatic movement to figure it out. So my friends, that's just a little riff, a little reflection on subtle and dramatic movement. I would love to hear from you as far as if you had any click moments or something that this did within you. Please share them in the remarks, or as people have been doing, just you can reach out to me. Also in the remarks, if there's a topic you'd like me to talk about, I'm going to open that up. I go on my intuition, and I go on my experience and what's coming up and what I'm passionate about, but I'm also interested in hearing what you'd like to hear. I'd like to give a special thanks, as always, to Micah McKenzie, who did the incredible cover art. He is a local artist here in Asheville, a photographer, and an amazing artist. So thank you, Micah. And until next time, my friends, I probably won't be in Lake Santilla next time, but I'll be at some amazing location, and I'll, as always, be passionate about sharing what's coming up and new ways to see the world. Some click moments. Peace.